I'm sorry? What was that again?
I'm a god.
You're a god.
I'm a god.
Were you actually bitten twice by a groundhog during shooting of that film and had to get a rabies shot?
I'm not flip nodule there. That's from the Groundhog.
I wasn't sure if that was something they were just throwing in to spice up the tour.
No, that's real.
Groundhog Day wasn't just a comedy about a cranky weatherman stuck in a time loop.
Watch out for that first step, it's a doozy.
It was a meditation on immortality wrapped in slapstick. And it nearly tore apart Hollywood friendships. Behind the scenes, this film drew inspiration from vampire novels, endured a real groundhog attack, and even sparked a feud so bitter it lasted 2 decades. Some facts are funny, others are downright unsettling. And together, they prove this movie was as chaotic to make as the loop itself was to live. These are 21 shocking truths about Groundhog Day, with one final twist that almost changed the ending forever. 1. Vampire DNA. Before it was about a small-town holiday, Groundhog Day began as a vampire story. Screenwriter Danny Rubin has admitted the spark came while reading The Vampire Lestat, not while thinking about Punxsutawney. He was obsessed with the question, what happens when someone can't die and lives through centuries of repetition? Would immortality rot a person into selfishness, or eventually force them into selflessness? Instead of bloodsucking, Rubin imagined a man who simply kept existing while the world never moved forward. The idea morphed into a character trapped reliving the same day, learning, failing, and gradually evolving. The holiday itself was chosen later because it was small, absurd, and easy to reset. That dark philosophical DNA never left the script. Beneath the laughs and gags, the film's heart beats like a gothic parable about time, meaning, and how immortality might break or remake, it's you. 2. The Cursed Draft. In its earliest form, Groundhog Day wasn't mysterious at all. It was cursed. Danny Rubin's first draft explained the time loop as black magic cast by an angry ex-girlfriend. The story literally opened with her performing a spell, condemning Phil to repeat February 2nd until he became a better man. Rubin thought the supernatural hook might ground the audience, but it risked shrinking the film into a gimmick. When Harold Ramis joined, he pushed to cut the explanation entirely. He believed the loop would be more powerful and more haunting if no one knew why it happened. The choice changed everything. By keeping the time trap unexplained, the film shifted from a quirky fantasy into a universal fable. It wasn't about punishment by a witch. It was about life itself, mysterious, repetitive, and demanding transformation without giving any reasons why. 3. Dropping you mid-loop. Imagine pressing play, and from the very first scene, Phil Connors is already trapped. That's how Danny Rubin originally wrote Groundhog Day. No setup, no explanation. Just a man stuck in a loop with no beginning in sight. Rubin wanted the audience to share Phil's confusion, to feel lost inside the rules of a world where time won't move forward. It was bold, but also unsettling. Harold Ramis thought audiences needed to see Phil before the curse. Arrogant, smug, and ripe for change. So he restructured the story. First we meet Jerk Phil, then we watch him fall into the loop. That choice gave the film its 3-act rhythm and made the transformation believable. But here's the twist. While Ramis wanted clarity, Phil's actual casting nearly took the story in a whole other direction. 4. Why not Tom Hanks? It's hard to picture anyone but Bill Murray as Phil Connors. But at first, Harold Ramis had his eyes on America's favorite nice guy, Tom Hanks. In the early 90s, Hanks was fresh off A League of Their Own and already beloved for his decency and charm. Ramis thought his warmth would make the character's redemption powerful, but Hanks saw the trap. He turned the role down, saying audiences would sit in their seats just waiting for him to become kind, because that's what Tom Hanks always did. His instincts were dead on. To sell the journey from smug to sincere, the actor had to be someone we didn't trust right away. That rejection cleared the way for Bill Murray's biting cynicism. And with Murray on board, Phil Connors became unpredictable. But Murray's sharp edge didn't just shape the performance, it reshaped the entire mood of the film. 5. The perfect cynic Bill Murray wasn't the safe choice, but he was the right one. Unlike Tom Hanks, Murray carried a public persona of sarcasm, distance, and emotional detachment. That gave him the credibility to play Phil as a man the audience actually disliked at first. And when the cracks finally appeared, when Phil started showing kindness, patience, even love, those moments felt earned. You didn't expect Bill Murray to soften often, and that surprise made the redemption arc sting harder. Critics later noted that no other actor of the time could have balanced cruel humor with quiet sincerity the way Murray did. His performance is the reason Groundhog Day feels both biting and heartfelt at once. But Murray wasn't the only one improvising layers into the story. Another actor slipped in lines so memorable they weren't even on the page. 6. Ned Bing Ryerson. If there's one character guaranteed to test Phil Connor's patience, it's Ned Ryerson, the overeager insurance salesman who pops up every single morning. Actor Stephen Tobolowsky didn't just play Ned, he practically invented him. Many of Ned's quirks, from his awkward cadence to his chirpy Bing catchphrase, were improvised on set. Even
Watch out for that first step, it's a doozy.
Came from Tobolowsky's instinct to lean into Ned's corny enthusiasm. Those ad-libs gave the film a rhythm. Every time Ned appeared, Phil's reactions measured his growth, from rage to resignation to genuine affection. Without Tobolowsky's improvisation, those repeated encounters could have felt stale. Instead, they became comic checkpoints for Phil's journey, and the creativity didn't stop with Ned. Even the director himself couldn't resist stepping into the story. 7. Ramis on camera. You'd expect Harold Ramis to be behind the camera, not in front of it. But in Groundhog Day, the director makes a subtle cameo as the neurologist Phil visits when the time loop starts breaking his mind. Calm, professional, and almost bemused, Ramis grounds the scene with a straight-faced delivery. The choice wasn't about ego, it was practical. Ramis needed someone who could keep the tone dry while Murray spiraled, and stepping in himself was the quickest fix. Fans who spot the cameo see it as an inside joke, the man orchestrating Phil's torture also diagnosing him on screen. It's a reminder of how personal this film was for its creators. But if Ramis's cameo was quiet fun, the next part of production was anything but, because the chaos of shooting was about to turn very real. If you're hooked on this kind of behind-the-scenes mayhem, smash that like and subscribe button, and tell us in the comments which loop moment still makes you laugh. Now let's dive into the madness that unfolded on set. 8. Groundhog bites Scooter. The groundhog might have looked cuddly on screen, but off-camera he was a menace. During the truck driving scene, Murray had to hold the animal close for multiple takes. Stressed by the lights and endless repetition, Scooter lashed out and bit Murray twice. One bite broke the skin so badly that Murray had to undergo precautionary rabies shots. Crew members recall the atmosphere shifting after that day, with Murray becoming more irritable and guarded. Ironically, the star who mocked the groundhog on screen was actually scarred by him off it. The bites became infamous in Hollywood lore, a reminder that animal co-stars can be unpredictable. And this wasn't the only physical punishment handed out during filming. The crew soon realized the cold itself could be just as brutal as Scooter's teeth. 9. Frozen tongues and brutal cold Woodstock. Illinois looked picture perfect, but its winter weather nearly froze the production in place. Actors struggled to deliver lines because their tongues and lips went numb in sub-zero temperatures. Andie MacDowell even showed early signs of frostbite on her cheeks, forcing the crew to halt filming until she recovered. To make matters worse, continuity demanded winter conditions, even as spring crept in, so the team had to truck in fake snow to keep the illusion alive. Imagine repeating the same scenes again and again while your body begged for warmth. It mirrored Phil's nightmare almost too perfectly. That bitter chill tested everyone's patience. And it wasn't just nature causing headaches. Even inanimate objects started to feel like villains on set. 10. The flip clock's stardom. Every day in Groundhog Day starts with the same cursed sound. Sonny and Cher's "I Got You Babe" blasting from a Panasonic flip clock. That clock became as iconic as any actor, and as destructive. The prop team treated it like a character, building multiple versions, including one designed to smash spectacularly when Phil finally snapped. Fans became obsessed with the model, the Panasonic RC6025, and today collectors still hunt it down online. The clock embodied Phil's torment, relentless, cheery, and impossible to escape. When he destroyed it, audiences cheered because they wanted to smash it too. In the end, that little machine became cinema's most famous alarm clock. But while props could be rebuilt, not everything on set was fake. Even the music lessons came with a dose of real-life authenticity. 11. The piano truth. Phil's piano lessons are some of the most charming moments in the film, showing his growth through music. But here's the secret. The teacher wasn't a random local. She was Chicago stage actor Peggy Roeder. For the playing itself, the production used a professional hand double, pianist Terry Fryer, whose fingers you see in close-ups. Bill Murray did take basic lessons, so his finger placement looked convincing, but the true virtuosity wasn't his. Roeder's natural authority as a teacher gave the scenes credibility, making Phil's leaps in skill feel almost believable. Fans often assumed the film had hired a real Woodstock piano instructor, but the truth is more layered. Part actor, part musician, and a lot of movie magic. Still, not every scene relied on doubles. Some moments demanded very real hits, and Bill Murray took them on the chin. 12. The Slap Marathon. One of the film's running gags is Phil trying and failing to woo Rita, only to get slapped again and again. What audiences didn't know was just how real those slaps were. Andie MacDowell ended up smacking Bill Murray at least 25 times during filming. Murray, always the provocateur, reportedly told her to go ahead and hit him hard. But by the final takes, his face was swelling, and the humor was starting to wear thin. The repetition was grueling for both actors, echoing the endless loop they were portraying. But that pain paid off. The montage of slaps became one of the funniest and most telling parts of the movie, marking Phil's slow crawl from manipulation to sincerity. Still, while the bruises eventually healed, the emotional wounds between Murray and the director ran far deeper. 13. How long was Phil stuck? Fans have debated this for decades. Just how long was Phil trapped in the loop? The film never spells it out. Harold Ramis once estimated 10 years, then later revised it to 30 or 40, reasoning that learning advanced piano, ice sculpting, and French poetry would take decades. Danny Rubin, however, originally imagined Phil enduring it for 10,000 years, an eternity of repetition meant to force transformation. Internet sleuths even crunched the math, estimating 12,395 days, or about 34 years. The mystery is deliberate. By leaving it unresolved, the story becomes more myth than math problem. Whether Phil endured decades or millennia, the point remains. True change is slow, painful, and unmeasurable. And while time was infinite for Phil, one word seemed strangely absent in all that repetition. Or was it? 14. The title is spoken. Here's a mythbuster. Despite what many fans claim, the phrase Groundhog Day is spoken in the movie. Early in the story, Phil groans, "Well, it's Groundhog Day again." Somehow, over the years, a false rumor spread that no one ever says the film's title on screen. That little Mandela effect only fueled the movie's mystique. It shows how deeply audiences got lost in the loop. So much so, they missed the obvious. Ironically, a film about repetition managed to erase its own name from memory. This tiny detail proves how slippery collective memory can be, and how even the most famous films spawn myths. But that wasn't the only distortion to come out of production. The tension behind the camera was far more damaging than any fan confusion. 15. Murray versus Ramis fallout. For audiences, Groundhog Day feels perfectly balanced. Sharp comedy, heartfelt romance, and real philosophy. But behind the scenes, that balance tore apart one of Hollywood's great partnerships. Bill Murray and Harold Ramis had worked together for years, but on this set, their visions collided. Murray wanted the darker, more introspective story Rubin first imagined. Ramis pushed for accessibility, humor, and warmth. The arguments grew so fierce that Murray stopped speaking directly to Ramis, communicating only through assistants. Their friendship dissolved for more than 2 decades. Only in 2010, after Ramis was diagnosed with a terminal illness, did Murray show up at his door with donuts to reconcile. It was bittersweet closure for a legendary duo. That broken bond haunts the film's legacy, but the location they chose gave it an unexpected magic all its own. 16. Woodstock over Punxsutawney. Although the story is set in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, the cameras rolled in Woodstock, Illinois. Why? Punxsutawney didn't have the right cinematic look. Its festival takes place in a park far outside town with no central square. Woodstock, on the other hand, offered a perfect layout for repeating shots. The same streets, the same corner puddle, the same diner. The town welcomed the crew, even allowing storefronts to be altered for filming. Today, Woodstock embraces its Hollywood heritage, hosting annual screenings and walking tours that mark key filming spots, including that notorious puddle. The choice gave the film a timeless, fairy tale atmosphere, as if Phil's nightmare could unfold in any small town. But Groundhog Day didn't just live on through tourism. Its story kept looping long after the credits, in ways nobody expected. 17. The musical loop. More than 2 decades later, Groundhog Day found new life on stage. In 2016, the Old Vic Theatre in London premiered Groundhog Day, the musical, with songs by Tim Minchin and a book by Danny Rubin himself. Critics praised its mix of comedy and pathos, and actor Andy Karl even won the Olivier Award for Best Actor. The show transferred to Broadway in 2017, earning 7 Tony nominations. But despite critical love, it closed after only 5 months, a victim of high costs and mixed box office. Still, the stage version proved the story's elasticity. The loop worked just as powerfully with music and dance. Fans still swap cast recordings online, keeping the musical alive. And that wasn't the last time Phil Connors resurfaced. A certain Jeep commercial brought him and Murray right back to Gobbler's Knob. 18. The Super Bowl sequel. That isn't in 2020, a Super Bowl ad gave fans the closest thing to a sequel. Jeep reunited Bill Murray, Stephen Tobolowsky, and Brian Doyle Murray in a commercial where Phil Connors once again wakes up in the loop, but this time he has a Jeep Gladiator to break the monotony. Shot back in Woodstock, the ad leaned into nostalgia while winking at the absurdity of Phil still being stuck after all these years. Fans ate it up, calling it the secret sequel to the film. For Murray, it was a rare return to one of his most iconic roles. The spot reminded audiences of how deeply Groundhog Day had embedded itself in culture. And in another twist, the film's name itself became shorthand for something much darker in real life: Groundhog Day syndrome. Not long after the movie's release, Groundhog Day leapt from cinema into psychology. Journalists and therapists began using the term Groundhog Day syndrome to describe the sense of monotony, burnout, or trauma that makes life feel endlessly repetitive. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, its usage spiked worldwide. People stuck at home repeating the same routine described their days as feeling like the film, a surreal echo of Phil's nightmare. While it's not an official diagnosis, the phrase captures something universal: the crushing weight of repetition. A quirky romantic comedy somehow gave us the vocabulary for modern ennui, and that cultural resonance ensured the film wouldn't just be remembered, it would be immortalized. In fact, it's now literally enshrined in dictionaries and national archives. From joke to dictionary today, Groundhog Day officially appears in dictionaries as a term meaning an unpleasant, repetitive situation. Politicians, journalists, and even soldiers have used it to describe everything from stalled negotiations to endless deployments. In 2006, the Library of Congress added Groundhog Day to the National Film Registry, recognizing its cultural significance. Not bad for a quirky comedy once pitched as a vampire-inspired fable. The irony is delicious. A film about a man desperate to escape repetition itself has been repeated endlessly in our language, our culture, and our headlines. But there was one alternate ending that could have flipped everything. A twist Danny Rubin once toyed with, but never filmed. And here's another fact that you didn't know. In one early draft, Danny Rubin imagined a darker ending. After Phil finally escapes the loop and wakes up with Rita on February 3rd, the alarm clock flips, and now she's stuck. The idea of passing the curse on to another character would have left audiences unsettled, turning a hopeful ending into a chilling handoff. Rubin ultimately abandoned it, worried it would undermine the story's emotional payoff. Still, the thought lingers. What if Phil wasn't the only one doomed to repeat? The unused ending shows just how far the writers were willing to push the concept. And while it never made it to the screen, it remains one of the strangest what-ifs in Hollywood lore. But if you think this loop was wild, wait until you see the movie meltdown we've lined up next. Click on the video right here to watch. And that's The Loop, 21 shocking facts about Groundhog Day that prove the chaos behind the camera was just as wild as the story on screen. Drop a comment with your favorite memory of watching Groundhog Day. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into Hollywood's untold stories.